Oh, we're back in business on Blue Star. Are we on? Are we on? Well, hello, my baby gorillas. And I would just like to say, I don't usually say these things, but obviously I'm being shadow banned. I've been kicked off YouTube. Guerilla TV channel has been suspended on YouTube. We're obviously annoying the right people just now, so that's absolutely fantastic. But I'd like to ask you to share and comment and like, and if you're enjoying the content, please get involved with it. So that we're not getting bullied by the corporatist globalists, and we can try and get the message out there to as many people as possible. So, one of my pet peeves is people who have got a quasi understanding of politics, saying where people are and where things are on the political compass, and it really bursts my knitting, as they say. So I thought I would just go over a wee political overview. What the political compass is. I don't know who invented this political compass, but it's just amazing. It's just the most incredible thing. And I would just like to discuss some things. And what the situation is, and show how your university professor is probably wrong. So I put it on Windows Art so I can draw all over it. And hopefully this will enlighten some people and stop the mistakes. Political commentators continually make mistakes on where people are on the political compass. And I think it's very important that we have proper political commentators. I think that these commentators are deliberately misleading the public, and that the real issues are more nuanced probably than what is actually being discussed by just saying left or right. Obviously, there's depth as well as just saying left or right in the actual political commentary. There's authoritarian and libertarian, which is equally as significant. But for all the time that I've been watching politics, it's only left or right, as if that axiom is the only thing that matters, and it's certainly not. So I would like to discuss a few things with you and try and explain a few things from a political science point of view. I know that some of the things I talk about are dull, but it's important that you get your terminology correct so that when people are challenging you on issues, that you're able to speak more concisely and outsmart the commentators who aren't really that great, guys. So, as we know, there is a left-right continuum. So even if we go right along here and go from the left here, I wonder if I can get a pointer on this. Don't know if that's a brush, pencil. So we've got the left and the right, and the continuum is along this horizontal axis. The vertical axis differentiates right-leaning people to left-leaning people. Now, we need both, and the point is not to be overly rude to your opponents, even when they're saying stupid things. So I may agree with somebody on the left or on the right, depending on what the policy is. And I'm open to listening to debate. Just now, the left are not open to debate because they keep losing, and they're getting very upset that their arguments are weak. and now they're resorting to violence like spoilt children because their political arguments are weak, not to toughen up debate. What they've now done is gone into the cancel culture, and because they can't win on the debate, the best way is now to silence the opposition, which is complete authoritarianism. So I just want to get you to understand the dynamics here. So authoritarian, and I'm going to speak to you like children here in case MD doesn't understand politics. Authoritarianism is where you have individuals, so it can be anywhere from the left to the right, individuals who dictate the what's going on in the and usually use force, and what's going on in the country. Okay, left to right. Now this is quite interesting because people get confused about what left and right means. Far right is hyper capitalism. So you've got at the top authoritarian capitalism, and at the bottom anarcho capitalism. Same way on the left, you have got anarcho communists and syndicalists, which is Antifa down here, ANCAPs are down here, anarcho capitalists, and you've got authoritarian socialists, where the control of the government, or the control of economics is run by the government, and control of the capitalism is controlled by an authoritarian capitalist. But one of the things that gets confused is that racism, for example, is a right-wing issue, when it's not. In fact, racism and being a racist is both in the left and the right spectrums, and in the left and the right spectrums on the libertarian side of the political debate. So there's a lot of mistakes made. So they say that while we've seen a lot of racism coming out of the left just now in America, against black cops and things like that, disgraceful stuff, that they are forgiven because they are not on the right. And it's the right-wing capitalist racists, so that's why the left are against capitalism. And these guys are really what you would call idiots. And there is racism on the right, but let me try and explain. So out of communism, and I'm doing this freehand, so we'll see roughly where it comes out. Communism, can I change the colour on that? Yellow. So communism, let's say communism is a subset of the overall authoritarian left. Can I get it black here? Oh, what am I doing? Red, orange, blue. That might counter. So are probably in these boxes. So communism was done in the 19th century under Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, both of whom were Friedrich Engels was both a financial and literary contributory to Marx. So, and then I think fascism came out. Now, both Marx and Engels were the intellectual basis for communism, and Giovanni Gentile was the ideological inspiration for fascism. So fascism is I would say, so in Marx can also be related to the anarcho communism, because some of his stuff was anarcho, where the workers had the right to own the means of their own production, which you can do if you're self-employed or self-employed individual as well. You can still own the means of your production. So Giovanni Gentili was also a socialist, but he came out of Marxism, and he studied Marx, and he created fascism, where Mosley and uh, Mussolini were both socialists. So the fascists, this is quite tricky, fascists, when they say left and right, they are not talking about left and right as in the bigger scheme of political discourse. The actual ideology in fascism is close to Marxism, and it's just changes in policy from internationalism to nationalism, or a more nationalistic policy. So, but it's not from the left, it's state control, and from the left it's individual control. So this is the axiom from left to right, not whether or not you're a nationalist or an internationalist or a globalist as well, which is a different concept I'll come on to in a minute. So the nationalists are, and the internationalists and the communists are actually from left to right, but it's only marginally left to right in the overall authoritarian left of the political spectrum. So what then comes out of it is National Socialism. Again, remember I said that nationalism is not a left here or a right here concept or policy. It's in every one of the four boxes. Now, also I would also suggest, although this is laid flat in a lovely beautiful grid scenario, that this actually folds back in itself. It's not a horseshoe, it's actually a cylinder, and it folds back in itself, and it folds back from left to right, so it becomes a cylinder as you look at it, but also from top to bottom, so it almost becomes a circle from what we actually look at. So the fascists are obviously here, but from fascism, and if you look at the coinage that was printed by the National Socialists, the National Socialism, bearing in mind more free market, less free market, is actually probably, I think, up here, because Hitler was obviously increasingly authoritarian. So was fascism. So fascism could go up here as well. But fascism and National Socialism is not the same ideology. And National Socialism, obviously being socialist, they knew that they were in the authoritarian socialist bloc as well, as did Mussolini. But they weren't communists. And don't forget, 100 million people have died under communism. Communism is the most evil, pernicious ideology that the world has ever seen, worse than the fascism and National Socialism in S. But because there was elements of almost like social democracy in it, but they were still in the political left, that if you say when the socialists or the Marxists said these are right wing, it depends on where you stand on the political spectrum. But yes, they were right wing comparative to the communists. The communists really needed the enemy, but the communists, because they're so extreme, are the enemy of everybody else on the political spectrum, apart from potentially if you draw down the way. So if we cut down the way, you could see the fact that some of the people on the left, the extreme left, the loonies, are still be able to look at Marx and think, oh, he was a great guy, he was lovely. But they are on the extreme left, like Nicola Sturgeon. Nicola Sturgeon has now got protected classes, which comes out of the Jewish question. So Nippy Nicola is probably somewhere in taking her inspiration from Karl Marx, because she's an idiot. So within this, all fascism, and if you look at coinage from the National Socialists, it's got the hammer and sickle of the communists, and that the National Socialists also have their inspiration from the Marxist communists. If you look at I think in the Washington Post or the New York Times, Goebbels said that Lenin was the greatest man of all time and Hitler was the second, or something like that. It was very weird, and that National Socialism and communism, there's very little to choose from. One globalist and one nationalist. But if you look at the expansion of the National Socialists, they were international and fighting through military means, and we've also got the communists who were also internationalists and fighting through military means. So both National Socialism, although it says nationalism, they expanded further throughout from the borders. So, I mean, that's fascinating. So, but you can see that from the communists that it is left and right, but it's not left and right through other parts of the political spectrum. It's left and right within the authoritarian spectrum here. So the state controls everything, capitalists control the capitalist control, and you also got from up at the top, you've got the corporatists. So you've got authoritarian capitalism, where only a small number of people are able to shine because of rules and regulations to prevent competition. So this comes into authoritarian capitalism, which is probably up here, I would think. Let me just change the thing. Probably up here. Authoritarian capitalism, where they just change the rules to suit themselves, to keep themselves in power, and or crony capitalism. Capitalism. I'll just put C because it's going to tricky right there. So, crony capitalism up the top. Prevent people entering the market, get rules, don't allow them access to capital. So these are the things that actually prevent us. So, but also it doesn't matter. I mean, if you think about down here, so from the far left, everything looks far right. So everybody, like liberals, where I am, I'm going to work out. So I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 along. So I'm here. So the left see that as far right, whereas the reality is libertarian, which is underneath the line, and about 2 to the right. So I'm nearly the pretty much at the centre. 4 and 2 up would be anything further than there. If I was, so we're talking about the extreme left. So that whole situation of me actually being a centrist. So if you draw a sort of ball, and that's really the sort of greater extent of the centre of politics. So we're actually, all of these people in here are near the centre, but my real grouping is in the libertarian centrists. So these are my types of people in here.